Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really embarking on quite an extraordinary journey, looking into humanity's hidden history and, well, its future destiny, too.
And our guide for this is H.P. Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, specifically Volume 2, Anthropogenesis.
Exactly. And this one is really crafted for you, our fellow truth seekers, those on the path of theosophy. We're going to be digging into a vision of evolution that, frankly, stretches back millions of years.
Yeah, talking about lost continents, giant races, this whole grand cosmic plan.
It is grand. And we get that these ideas can sound, well, the text itself says, like a weird and fantastic dream. But we really invite you to journey with us, maybe from doubt towards certainty.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how Blavatsky tackles that skepticism right away. She doesn't shy away from it.
How so?
Well, she frames these ancient secret records not just as, old stories, but as the actual synopsis of humanity's true origin story, explaining the hidden meaning behind global myths and the viewpoints of esoteric antiquity.
So it's like peeling back layers to see the real meaning underneath.
Precisely. It's an invitation to look beyond the surface narrative,
That's a really powerful way to frame it. So, okay, if this ancient wisdom is our guide, how does Blavatsky actually start laying out this huge evolutionary journey in anthropogenesis?
Yeah.
What's the grand schema she talks about?
Right. So Anthropogenesis, the whole volume, really, is dedicated to humanity's evolution through what she calls this grand schema, 7 major evolutionary stages. We know them as the root races.
7 root races, okay?
Yeah. And it's an immense time scale we're talking about. Each of these 7 races develops over millions of years, unfolds its potential on its own distinct continental system.
A whole continent for each race.
Essentially, yes, a major landmass associated with its primary development. And each race is sort of tasked with perfecting one of the 7 human principles, these core aspects of our being, from the physical right up to the most spiritual essence.
Wow.
And this whole vast journey, that's what the text calls humanity's appointed cycle pilgrimage.
A cycle pilgrimage. I like that. It really captures the epic scale, doesn't it?
Right.
So where do we fit in? Present-day humanity. Which root race are we considered to be?
Good question. Our current humanity, what Blavatsky calls present humanity, mostly belongs to the 5th root race. This is often called the Aryan race.
Okay, the Aryan race. Now, that term comes with a lot of baggage today.
It absolutely does, and it's really crucial here to understand Blavatsky's specific esoteric context. She's using Aryan to denote a particular stage of humanity's spiritual and intellectual evolution, completely distinct from any, modern political or racial interpretations.
Right, that's a vital distinction. So this 5th root race, how long has it been around?
The esoteric timeline suggests about 1 million years, which is staggering. This race, our race, survived the huge cataclysms that eventually destroyed Atlantis, the main continent of the 4th root race.
1 million years. It really does put our recorded history just a few thousand years into perspective, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So what's the main job, the sort of defining characteristic of our current 5th root race? What are we supposed to be working on?
Okay, this is key. The central mission for the 5th race is the full development of the intellect, what Blavatsky calls lower manus. That's our concrete, analytical, rational mind, the thinking principle.
Right, the mind as we generally understand it.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. The ultimate goal isn't just to be smart, It's about transmuting that intellect, refining it, making it a vehicle for accessing higher spiritual wisdom.
So intellect isn't the end goal, but a tool.
Precisely. We're described as being on an ascending arc of evolution, moving away from the deep entanglement in matter and perhaps the more uncontrolled psychic powers of the Atlanteans, the 4th race. We're starting this long climb back towards a more spiritual focus.
So harnessing the intellect for something higher.
Yes. Building that intellectual foundation is really setting the stage for what's meant to come next in the cycle.
It's fascinating, too, how the text points to actual geographical places, not just these abstract stages. And you mentioned America earlier. There seems to be a specific critical role assigned to the American continent, not just politics or economics.
Exactly. It's framed as a profound, karmically ordained role. Occult philosophy, as Blavatsky presents it, teaches that even now, a new race, or rather a sub-race preparing the way for the next root race, is silently starting to form.
Silently forming. Where?
She states it quite directly. It is in America that the transformation has already silently commenced. And this isn't just seen as sociology. It's viewed as a kind of biological and spiritual forging, a unique blending happening at a really deep level.
How does she describe that blending?
The source highlights the unprecedented blending of various nationalities and intermarriage happening in America. This is seen as the physical mechanism, the sort of crucible, for forging this new racial type.
A new racial type.
Yeah, she suggests Americans have already become a nation apart and almost a race sui generis. A unique kind.
That's a strong statement. Now, I imagine for some listeners, that idea of a new racial type could sound, well, problematic, given historical misuses of such concepts. How does Blavatsky frame this to avoid, say, biological determinism? What's the spiritual angle?
That's a really important point. Blavatsky isn't talking about superiority or inferiority in the way those terms are often misused. It's more about creating a composite physical stock. Think of it like a vessel, a crucible needed for the next step.
Okay, so the blending itself is the key.
Yes. This unique blended stock is identified as carrying the germs of the sixth subrace. These individuals are seen as the potential pioneers of the race that will eventually succeed our current European or fifth subrace, maybe in a few hundred years.
So America is like the womb in this view.
Kind of, yes. The designated crucible destined to produce the parent stock for the future sixth root race. But, and this is interesting, it also implies it's a transitional role. The text says there will be no more Americans when the sixth race commences, meaning that distinct national identity gets absorbed into something much larger, more universal, as the sixth root race proper emerges globally.
Okay, so this new subrace forming in America is like the advance guard, a prelude. What does the bigger picture look like, the actual sixth root race? What kind of humanity is envisioned?
Right. As humanity keeps moving up that ascending arc, this future sixth root race humanity is described as rapidly growing out of its bonds of matter and even of flesh.
Less physical, more ethereal.
That's the implication. A return towards a less dense constitution. And the main faculty they'll perfect is a higher spiritualized consciousness. A synthesis, really, of our sharp intellect and deep spiritual intuition. It's called buddhi manas.
Buddhi manas, what's that like?
Think of it as, like, direct perception of truth. Not just figuring things out logically step by step, but an immediate, intuitive knowing, a grasp of reality.
Wow.
And in its later stages, the text even predicts that the majority of the future mankind will be composed of glorious adepts.
Adepts, you mean like enlightened beings, masters.
Individuals who've achieved significant spiritual mastery and knowledge, yes. That's the long-term trajectory envisioned.
That's a pretty dramatic transformation from physical, intellectual beings to something much more spiritual and intuitive.
Yeah.
But you mentioned cataclysms earlier. This transition isn't going to be smooth sailing, is it?
Oh, definitely not. It's expected to be marked by huge geological changes, cataclysms that completely reshape the planet's surface.
Like Atlantis sinking.
Exactly like that precedent. The text suggests the era of the sixth root race will be ushered in by geological upheavals that must one day destroy Europe and still later the whole Aryan race, meaning the physical civilizations of the fifth race.
Destroy Europe. That's intense.
It is. And concurrently, a sixth continent is prophesied to gradually rise from the oceans to become the main home for this new sixth race.
A whole new continent. So what happens to us, the fifth race people? Are we just wiped out?
It's not seen as an overnight extinction event. The fifth race will overlap with the sixth for potentially hundreds of thousands of years. Remnants of the fifth will likely survive on land masses that become high plateaus or islands. And then, according to the text, they'll slowly vegetate, degenerate, and finally die out, much like the last remnants of the Atlanteans are said to exist today in isolated groups. It really underscores the vast cyclical rhythm of evolution and devolution.
These are truly staggering claims. Lost continents, new races emerging, future cataclysms. It definitely bumps up against, modern science and history. Skepticism seems like a natural reaction for many.
Oh, absolutely.
How does Blavatsky herself handle that? How does she encourage people, especially truth seekers drawn to this, to look past what she calls the folly of foregone conclusions?
This is where she mounts a really strong defense, actually. She argues quite passionately that the history of human thought, especially scientific thought, is basically a graveyard of premature ridicule and scornful denial.
A graveyard.
Meaning that whenever new ideas or ancient truths challenge the accepted views of the time, the knee-jerk reaction is often disbelief and ridicule. She talks about the great spirit of a priori omniscience, this tendency to assume we already know everything, whispering, no such thing can be. And the person bringing forth the inconvenient truth gets labeled a hoaxer or dismissed.
Right. You don't have to look far in history to see examples of that.
Exactly. She points to things like While Marco Polo's travels being laughed off as fantasies, the very existence of cities like Troy or Pompeii being doubted until someone literally dug them up.
Yeah, I remember reading about Audubon being called a liar for painting a yellow water lily nobody else had seen until they found it decades later.
Or Victor Hugo describing an impossible giant squid, only for real ones with massive tentacles to be discovered later. These examples, for Blavatsky, show how often established knowledge has been wrong or incomplete.
So the message is, don't dismiss something just because it doesn't fit current models.
Precisely. Given this track record, she says, the occultists maintain our claims. The ancient records she draws on, which state things like writing existed among Atlanteans way, way before the Phoenicians, something unthinkable to 19th century scholars, these form the basis.
And these records aren't typical history books.
Well, they're often described as ideographic, symbolic, connected to zodiacal cycles. You need the keys of universal symbolism to really unlock them. It's presented as a different kind of knowledge, based on insights from initiates, from an ancient, unbroken wisdom tradition. It's really an invitation to consider that maybe, just maybe, mainstream science doesn't have all the answers yet.
Okay, so if we sort of lean into this broader perspective, accept this grand vision, even provisionally,
Yeah.
what does it mean for us? For you, the listener, the truth seeker, the theosophist, in daily life? It can't just be about waiting for the sixth race, right? There must be work to do.
Absolutely. This destiny isn't presented as some fatalistic thing you just passively wait for. It demands conscious effort, ethical work, spiritual work.
What kind of work specifically?
The text calls the most holy and most important mission of this esoteric philosophy to unite firmly a body of men of all nations in brotherly love and bent on a pure altruistic work.
Universal brotherhood.
Exactly. It's not just presented as a nice social ideal. It's framed as an absolutely essential spiritual prerequisite. It's like preparing the soil, creating the necessary ethical environment for a higher, more unified race to actually emerge and thrive.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if, as the teachings suggest, new psychic or occult powers might awaken more widely in humanity.
Right. There's a perceived danger there. If those powers aren't guided by strong ethics, by altruism, they could easily be misused for selfish gain or manipulation. So building that ethical foundation is critical. It ensures these emerging faculties serve spiritual growth, not hinder it.
So our actions now directly impact the conditions for the future.
That's the core idea. It connects back to what you might call the unseen engine of destiny. Humanity is seen as a child of this cyclic destiny, making its pilgrimage under the laws of karma.
And the scriptures, the Secret Doctrine itself.
They are described as its cloak, its outer garment. The simple look might only see the garment, the literal story. But the instructed student, the truth seeker, is encouraged to see what the cloak covers.
A deeper meaning.
Yes. These texts are called singularly refined, full of allusions and reticences. They invite that deeper, symbolic interpretation, not just surface reading.
And it's not asking for blind faith, is it?
Not at all. It's framed as an invitation. Look beyond the limitations of both scientific materialism and rigid religious dogma. There's a quote often associated with this approach, advice from a philosopher. Begin with doubts to end in certainties.
Start with questions, end with conviction gained through study and insight.
Exactly. It's a defense, really, of this ancient wisdom tradition, confident that while human speculations might fade, the underlying truths of nature, of the cosmos, will endure and eventually be confirmed.
So as we wrap up this dive, thinking about this immense cycle of destiny, what's the key takeaway for you listening right now? We've covered millions of years, Atlantis, the coming sixth race, the justification for believing these ancient claims.
Well, the deep dive certainly reinforces the idea that the present is the child of the past, the future, the begotten of the present. Our actions shape what's next.
Cause and effect, karma.
Right. But then the text throws in this incredibly provocative twist, almost a riddle. O present moment, knowest thou not that thou hast no parent, nor canst thou have a child, that thou art ever begetting but thyself?
Wow. Okay, unpack that a little. No parent, no child, only begetting itself.
It points towards a nonlinear view of time, doesn't it? The idea that past, present, and future aren't separate boxes, but are the ever-living trinity in one, the Mahamaya, the grand illusion of the absolute I-S.
So it's all happening now, in a way, challenging our usual perception of time.
It certainly challenges it. It invites you to see beyond linear progression and recognize your own role, perhaps your own eternal nature, within this continuous unfolding cosmic drama. It hints that the separation we perceive is part of the illusion, that it's all fundamentally interconnected within the one reality.
That is definitely something to ponder deeply.
Indeed. And regardless of whether we fully grasp it or accept it right now, the saying holds true. Y peut se mouver, and still it moves. Evolution, the unfolding of consciousness, carries on relentlessly.
So this knowledge isn't just intellectual curiosity.
No, it's meant to be empowering. It encourages us to stop being passive observers and to actively participate in creating the ethical, the spiritual conditions needed for humanity's next great evolutionary step. It's really a call to conscious, altruistic living right here, right now.
A powerful call to action grounded in a vast cosmic perspective. We hope this deep dive into Blavatsky's Anthropogenesis has given you some real nuggets of insight and plenty to think about. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.